Why do I give to the Ministry of Young Life? So many reasons. It's so hard to put into words. I had to go back to read about the big dream that Jim Rayborn talked about and to find out what words did he use. And he said this: Young Life is a group of people, I hope it's all of you people, and a lot more, bound together in the single-minded purpose that there's no price too high to pay to see to it that young people have a chance to know the Savior. Somebody paid that price for me. When I was in high school, a friend of mine invited me to hang out in the basement with a group of friends. She invited me to Joe and Karen Belinko's apartment to read the Bible, and she invited me to camp, but I didn't go. Although my future pastor did and Becky did, I sadly did not go. But about a decade later, I ran into Joe Belinko and just said thank you for pouring into me when I was in high school. And he invited me to family camp. And so I went with my young family to family camp, and then came back the next year with more family and more friends. And it was at family camp where my husband and I said yes to the call to jump into volunteer leading at the high school where my husband taught. And we served alongside of Michael, when he was in college, and the person who became his wife, Alana, and Carrie Thompson Hastings. And those teammates and those high school students became lifelong friends. Lots of weddings, lots of babies, lots of intersections of those high schoolers who then went on to college to lead into our kids' lives through Wildlife, Capernaum, Young Life, through summer staff and internships. I asked my kids why they are glad that we give to Young Life, and they said, well, I met my future spouse through Young Life. Of course, I'm grateful. They said it's Young Life makes it more possible for kids to hear about hope and joy that's available solely through Christ. That Young Life offers an invitation to come as you are, not a command to get your act together. That Young Life bridges the gap among kids who wouldn't normally spend time together. And I think my favorite way of putting this into words is when my son, who learned this at Capernaum, says that Young Life has taught him that God's love is deep, that God's love is high, that God's love is wide, that God's love is long. I'm so grateful that Young Life reaches across all segments of our society, all classes of our society, and that it's reached into my own family, that Young Life has shaped who our family is and who they're becoming. And I can't imagine a world where my kids and my grandkids and their friends don't have a chance to hear about the Savior and to have the chance to know the Savior. So that's why I give.